I hate time travel. Every time I get recommended a time travel movie, it always gives me a bad taste in my mouth. Steins Gate, Summertime Rendering, and Back to the Future were really the only stories I was able to enjoy, but either way, it was always hard to just keep up with the different timelines and the way the situations are changed, so I was actually shocked at how addicted I got to Psychopaths, a horror mystery series made in 2022 by Honda Shingo. It's about a detective who time travels back to the past to prevent horrific crimes that happened. The catch is that the detective goes back in time in somebody else's body. For such a normal concept, I did not expect the amount of messed up stuff in this manga. It's becoming one of my favorite series to read, so shout out to the people that actually suggested it to me in the comments. So today, we're going to dive into the first 2 arcs of the series and break down just how wild and shocking this series can get. And trust me, this series can get really weird.
But if you guys want to see more anime content like this one, then why not go down and hit that subscribe button.
If you guys want a part 2 to the series, then let's go ahead and reach 2K likes on this video. But without further ado, let's get on with it. The story kicks off with Godai Itsu, a hot-headed 26-year-old detective, taking down a Yakuza operation, only to get chewed out for using excessive force. He's tough, but cares deeply for his 17-year-old sister, who he's been raising on his own. The very next day, Itetsu is transferred from the 1st section to the 5th, which raises a red flag since there are only supposed to be 3 sections. When he arrives, he's greeted by a man dressed as Leatherface. Instinctively, Itetsu grabs him by the collar, but it turns out that this masked man is Hiraka Shion, the chief of the 5th section and a psychic investigator. Oh, and if that's not wild enough, he's also the son of the chief of the Metropolitan Police. Shion explains that he created the 5th section to deal with paranormal murder cases. He tests Itsu's knowledge of famous serial killers, showing him a list of notorious criminals like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. In America, these killers are practically pop culture icons with trading cards and all. But in Japan, criminals are despised. So Shion made his own set of Japanese serial killer cards, packed with every twisted detail of their crimes. Itetsu, who has a deep-seated hatred for criminals, rips one of the cards in disgust, declaring that all of these monsters deserve to burn in hell. This intense drive is exactly why Shion picked him. He then hits Itetsu with a life-altering offer. What if he could bring back the lives of the killers as victims? Would he risk everything to go back in time and prevent these horrific murders before they even happen? Well, Shion has the power to send people back to the past. If Itetsu can successfully stop the crimes, the entire outcome will be rewritten, including, possibly, preventing the execution of these killers, giving society a chance to understand why they committed such heinous acts. One of these killers could even be the one responsible for murdering Itetsu's own family. Fueled by the chance of revenge and redemption, he's all in. Shion loves his enthusiasm, but if he fails, there's no coming back. Shion shapes his hand to a gun and points it to Itetsu's forehead. Bang. Itetsu finds himself waking up, chained up in a dark room, in the body of a teenage girl. Itetsu wakes up in the body of Haruka, one of the victims of a notorious serial killer. Haruka and another girl, Junko, have been trapped in the killer's basement for a month, and Itetsu knows from the case files that Junko is going to die soon. Suddenly, the killer, Izaki Yoshinobu, walks in wearing a grotesque outfit made from the breast of his 6 previous victims. He checks if Junko is lactating, but when she isn't, he brutally cuts off her breast and knocks Itetsu out after he tries to fight back. When Itetsu wakes up, Junko's severed head is lying next to him. Izaki leaves him alive, having high expectations for him. He drugs Itetsu and forces him to drink milk, keeping him weak and under control. Later, Izaki brings in another victim and repeats the horrific cycle. Itetsu realizes he has one advantage: his knowledge of the case. He knows that Izaki, a former prep school teacher, used his charm to lure young women into his car before imprisoning them in his basement. The only survivor, Nishino Nanami, escaped after a metal fixture in the basement broke by coincidence. But Itetsu doesn't have that kind of time, since Haraku dies in just 1 week. Itetsu remembers a key detail from the case and confides in Nanami, revealing that he's from the future and that he needs her help. The next day, an earthquake hits, just as Itetsu had predicted. The ceiling cracks under the metal fixture, but before they can act, Izaki returns. He warns Itetsu that if he doesn't start lactating in 3 days, he'll kill him too. 2 days later, Itetsu and Nanami break the metal joint and start their escape. Itetsu knows Izaki won't be home since it's exam season, and his routine is very predictable. Twice daily feedings on work days, and then 3 times on his day off. As they make their way through the house, they notice a light in one of the rooms. Thinking that it may be a way out, Nanami bursts in only to find a dead body. In their panic, Izaki appears behind them. Meanwhile, back in the present, Haruka has swapped places with Itetsu, and Shion takes care of her, asking if she remembers anything that could explain Izaki's behavior. She recalls a memory of Izaki defending a boy who was being mocked for being a mama's boy, which seemed innocent at the time but now feels pretty significant. In the past, Izaki reveals he's suspicious of Itetsu, sensing something off about Haruka's eyes. To test him, he sets up a trap by skipping the noon feeding. Just then, a TV in the background flickers to life, showing footage of Izaki as an adult being breastfed by his mother. Izaki tries to grab Itetsu, but he slips out and uses a move that he taught his sister for self-defense, knocking Izaki to the ground. They barricade the door and try to call the police, but the lines are jammed due to the earthquake. Nanami decides to go for a different route though. Izaki breaks through the barricade but sees no one inside, just an open window. Itetsu and Nanami make a run for it, but Itetsu's injured leg slows them down. They spot a flashlight in the distance and it turns out to be Nanami's boyfriend, who she contacted using a pager code. But as they approach him, Izaki stabs him in the side. Izaki swings at Nanami, but Itetsu tackles her out of the way, still holding on to his one weapon, his knowledge of Izaki's past. He begins taunting him, bringing up the trauma of his mother's suicide and the affair his father had with another woman. The reason he goes after high school girls is because the woman his father was having an affair with was a student of his, which caused his mother to be overprotective over Izaki, even when he was still in high school, protecting him from other girls. When Izaki became a teacher like his father, his mother offed herself, and from then on, he's had a hatred towards high school girls and his mother, and he's currently being haunted by his mother every day, seeing her everywhere. Izaki snaps, enraged by his words, charges at him, but Itetsu fights back, wrestling him into a headlock. Izaki overpowers him, nearly strangling him when the police finally arrive to arrest Izaki. Itetsu successfully saves Haruka, and Nanami thanks him for everything. In a weird twist, Haraku's father, the chief of the prefecture police, shows up to retrieve his daughter. Itetsu is confused though. He never knew one of the victims was connected to such a high-ranking officer. Back in the present, Shion celebrates Itetsu's return and shows him an article detailing Izaki's life sentence. Not only did Itetsu save Haruka, but also prevented Izaki's execution, giving society a chance to understand his warped psyche. However, Itetsu is frustrated that he couldn't save Junko, questioning why Shion's powers can't do more. Shion explains that his ability only allows him to send him into bodies of victims, never the killers, due to their immense murderous intent. He also doesn't control which victim he ends up in, it's all random. But with Itetsu's knowledge and Shino's powers, they can keep on saving lives. Maybe even one day, Itetsu's family. The arc ends with a chilling scene where Shion meets with Haruka's father, who is shocked to hear that someone his daughter mentioned 30 years ago turned out to be real. With a sinister smile, Shion gets down to business with him. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community? But back to the video. The card game continues, and Itetsu's next target is Maju Shizuka, a nurse who poisoned at least 4 confirmed patients by tampering with their IVs. Many of the suspected patients were covered up as just natural deaths, so the real number could easily excel 50. Shino taps Itetsu's forehead and bang! Suddenly, Itetsu wakes up in the body of a child named Hino Shota. As he trembles out of the bed, he locks eyes with Maijo, who snaps at him to stop messing around and storms out. Itetsu quickly realizes that he's in a hospital surrounded by patients and future victims. He needs to act fast, but as a kid, he knows calling out Maju directly just won't work. He'll need some proof. Hino's mother visits and brings him a soccer ball signed by all of his teammates with messages of just encouragement. Another patient, an old woman named Akai Haru, gives Hino a juice box. Haru was the final victim in the Maju case, and it was her clutching Maju's pocket watch that played a key role in Maju's eventual arrest. Itetsu must keep up the appearance of being a child so he doesn't arouse suspicion like he did last time. As he's walking down the hall, he sees a kid playing Pokemon Heart Gold on a DS. He borrows the DS, helping the kid defeat a tough enemy in the game, which brings back memories of him playing with his little brothers. This gives him an idea. He could use the DS's camera to gather evidence. He overhears a doctor berating Maju over a patient's death, accusing her of screwing up the dosage again, just like she did 1 year ago. She denies it though, but the doctor isn't convinced. The hospital director intervenes, pulling Maju aside, telling her that he'll cover for her, just like he did before. From atop of a nearby shelf, Itetsu listens intensely. In the present timeline, Hino Shota is ecstatic, enjoying his new role as the young police officer, and relieved that he won't need surgery. But Shino wants to give him a taste of fear. Back in the hospital, Maju is about to inject a patient with a lethal dose, but Itetsu catches her in the act and quickly snaps a picture on the DS. After she leaves, Itetsu rushes to stop the IV from harming the patient. As he exits the room, Maju confronts him, suspicious of his behavior. He panics and runs, but he knows his body isn't fit for such stress, and his heart condition starts acting up. Maju finds him struggling to breathe in his bed, sweating profusely. She takes the DS, claiming that it's bad for his health, and then leaves. The next morning, 4 more patients die in the same mysterious way. The director covers it up as an illness, just like the other victim. Time is running out. Hino's surgery is in 2 days, and Itetsu needs the DS back to expose Maju. However, with the help from the girl in the next bed, she sneaks into Maju's office to retrieve it. As they're about to leave, they hear a noise and find the girl knocked unconscious. Someone runs down the hallway and Itetsu chases after them, only to find Haru laying on the floor. She claims she was heading to the bathroom and finds the pocket watch on the ground. Before Itetsu leaves, he stares down at the hallway, sensing something odd. The next day, Maju confronts Itetsu for stealing the DS, and she storms out of the room. That's when Itetsu had a breakthrough. That night, as the killer prepares to strike again, Itetsu reveals the truth. Akeharu is the real culprit. Her distinct footsteps gave her away, and her excuse about going to the bathroom didn't make any sense, considering the location of the restroom. Haru confesses, but her motive isn't malicious. She believes that she's saving the patients from their suffering, giving them salvation, and then putting all of the blame on Maju for mishandling their care. Itetsu had been recording the entire conversation on the DS, and as he runs to find a nurse, Haru catches up, violently throwing him against the walls of the hospital. Itetsu tries to fight back, but Hino's heart condition flares up again. Just as Haru is about to inject him with a lethal dose, Maju walks in. Haru takes Itetsu hostage, demanding Maju inject herself or she'll kill him. Maju complies, but before she can go through with it, Hino's soccer ball flies through the air, striking Haru in the head. The little girl from the hospital room had thrown it, and she wasn't alone. She had also brought a security guard. With their help, Itetsu takes down Haru, and she asks him who he really is, and he replies that he's from the future. However, she seems glad that there's someone else with the same sort of power. But before she can say any more, she swallows a cyanide pill and dies on the spot. Itetsu gives Maijin the DS and switches back to Hino. Hino's confused and scared until he sees Itetsu's note on the soccer ball, to live strong. Back in the present, Itetsu finds a mysterious envelope on Shino's desk from Haruka's father. As he walks down the hall, he sees Shino entering a secret room filled with material from the cases they've traveled back to. Itetsu confronts Shino, demanding to know what he's been hiding. Shino deflects it, saying it was only a matter of time before he showed him the room. He also claims that he's been talking with Haruka's father about Haruka and what she's doing now that the future has changed. When Itetsu presses him about Haru's comments that someone else has their powers, Shino brushes this off, telling him not to worry, that is just the grandmother's imagination, as he walks away with that sinister grin on his face. The arc ends with Itetsu crossing the street when a man presses a gun to his back. The man has one simple command: stop digging into the alternate present. He tells him to cross the street and not to look back. When Itetsu finally does cross the street, he turns around and the man is gone. Psycho-Pass takes the award of the best way to use time travel in a horror manga. This series is a great anthology mystery series where every little detail from every case affects the future timeline and is very, very important. Every detail from a bunch of different cases manages to sometimes show up for the main plot, affecting the whole way that the other cases are handled. The only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't highly impact the future, or at least that we kind of know of. I would like to see the bigger impacts of this world. I mean, these are massive serial killers in Japan, so I feel like regulations and big world events will also be affected as well. That's really the only complaint I have, because I feel like we're going to be seeing bigger impacts of these scenarios in the future. I love the art, I love the gore, I love the messed up imagery, I love the cases, and I love the approach to the cases. For example, the first case was more of a mystery of how Itetsu can escape in a body that's weaker than his, and the second case is more of a how can I get evidence that this killer did it, with a twist of who's actually the killer. I'm guessing every other case will be different too, maybe a case of like a cyberbully serial killer or something like that. So while there's the mystery of the cases, there's also something going on in the main story with Shino and the fifth section. I can't really guess what his plan is. We know that he's trying to examine the psychology of the serial killers, but I don't know why. And I also don't know why he's talking to people close to the case in the future. Maybe to see what's changed, but I honestly think that he's just trying to recruit. I think he has plans to build up the fifth section in secret and then have Haruka and Hino join him. I think the man who held the gun behind Itetsu is Hino Shota, working for Shino to keep Itetsu in his place. To me, this makes a lot of sense. Also, I think that Shino is lying about that picking the victims at random. I think he's specifically picking those victims so he can use later in the future. You can really drag out this series for a couple of hundred chapters, to be honest. It is going to be hard to correlate all of these factors together, but I think if the recruiting theory is the real plan, then it's not too far-fetched. Overall, I really do love this series. I love the concept and the mystery. It's all just dragging me back in. I'm like addicted to this series. I want way more chapters out. And if you guys love it too, then let's go ahead and reach the 2K likes, guys. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to join the Discord server. The link will be in the description below. And if you guys want more horror manga videos like this one, then why not scroll down and hit that subscribe button. So I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.